Hey everybody, it's Jordan here with Major Hi-Fi, back again with another review, and today we've got the Hifiman HE1000 Unveiled, their new release. It's part of a series of unveiled releases that have been coming out this year, and we've got a lot to talk about here. But first, if you like what you're seeing on this channel, definitely like and subscribe down below. It helps us make more videos just like them in the future, and it'll help deliver them right to your feed. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the HE1000 Unveiled, which comes in at $26.99 USD. Hifiman's always coming in with something that's pushing technology forward in the audio space, and this year they've released the Sosfara Unveiled, they've announced the Aria Unveiled, but right now we've got the HE1000 Unveiled. And basically what this is doing, and we'll talk about this in the design section in more detail, but is taking an open back to a whole new level with exposed drivers, and we've got these magnetic covers that we'll talk about, and there's a lot to talk about here. So let's just get into the review. In the box, you get the HE1000 Unveiled, 2 magnetic veils, a 1.5 meter single-ended 3.5 millimeter headphone cable, a 3 meter XLR balanced cable, and a 3 meter single-ended 6.35 millimeter headphone cable. You also get the Hifiman warranty. Alright, so let's talk about the build quality of these headphones, and there's some obvious things that you'll notice right off the bat, like the exposed driver and the magnetic veils. So let's turn this over a little bit so you can see the side, and we'll open up this ear cup. So Hifiman recommends using the magnetic veils whenever the headphones are not in use, so that way you can prevent anything from getting into the driver that's not supposed to be there. You don't want to listen to them with these on, but I definitely do recommend having these on when not in use. But real quick, we'll just see, you've got this open back design, but you've got this fully open and exposed driver. So we'll talk about in the sound impressions exactly what this does, but it really takes away reflections, it takes away any sort of barrier between fully natural sound and unnatural sound. It's an attempt by Hifiman to really open these things up and provide unparalleled level of detail and resolution. Now, despite the open design of the driver, I'd say this is a pretty well-built headphone. I think it's pulling a lot of design inspiration from both the HE1000 SE as well as the Sosfara Unveiled. It's all metal and suede and leather. It's really well built. I mean, if you feel it, you're just going to notice it's premium materials. One way this is different than the Sosfara Unveiled's look is that this goes for a metal and black design, whereas the Sosfara Unveiled had that copper brown looking leather and accoutrement, if you will. I'll also mention that this comes in at 450 grams, which is extraordinarily light for a planar magnetic headphone at this caliber and this build quality level. So really nice design innovations here, and of course not having that extra grill weight helps keep the weight down. And that weight is without the magnetic veils attached, but you're not going to be wearing them with the magnetic veils attached, so all good there. Overall, this is a reliably built and comfortable headphone. I think Hifiman's knocked the build out of the park here. Now, under the hood, the HE1000 Unveiled uses Hifiman's proprietary stealth magnets. To refresh, Hifiman says, "These magnets have an innovative shape that minimizes turbulence and sound wave reflection, allowing sound to pass through the magnetic gaps without degradation." The headphones also use Hifiman's nanometer thick diaphragm, which will help with transient response and just the overall speed of the driver. And like I mentioned in the build section, this fully open back design looks to remove any reflections or any obstacles for the sound, so you're getting unparalleled natural sound coming through this headphone. Unparalleled except for maybe the Sosfara Unveiled. So with all that build and design talk out of the way, let's talk about how this headphone actually sounds. That's the most important part after all. So getting into the sound impressions, what you've all been waiting for. So the HE1000 Unveiled has a low end that I would describe as presenting the best of both worlds in terms of what I look for in a bass response. Now, overall, I do think this is a slightly mid-forward headphone, but I do think that the quality of the sound starts with the roots in its bass response. So sub bass is really punchy, and there's a lot of detail below bass hits that really become apparent and make you feel the room and the space around the music. But then on top of that, you've got this really lush and musical mid bass. And so what that does is present a musical but highly detailed bass response. It's what I'd call the best of both worlds. It's really nice to listen to, and it's really nicely transitioned too. It's not like you're getting that pounding bass and then some missing information and then maybe a bloated sounding mid bass. That's not the case at all. You're getting a really clean sub bass that's not too punchy. It's not too in your face. So I wouldn't call it a bass heavy headphone, but it's really detailed. And then it uses that mid bass information to transition into the mid range and just give this warm timbre that makes things feel a little bit more musical, makes it feel a little bit more natural, and just gives this warmth that makes everything feel really inviting. And that's going to go a long way for helping set up the mid-range as well, which really is the star of the show. All right, so let's, like I said, get into the star of the show, that mid-range that's so lush and so detailed and open sounding and really shows off exactly what this open back design can really do for a headphone. So the mid-range is, like I said, pushed forward, and I wouldn't call it warm or colored in any way. It relies on that mid-bass transition for any sort of coloration and musicality. Instead, you're getting this forward and really natural mid-range. I really haven't heard a headphone in this price range that can just feel as natural. The spacing on the instruments is really impressive. So with that open back design, you've got a lot of room and a lot of air for the instruments to breathe. And that allows for some really nice textural qualities. You can feel every pluck of a violin, every strum of a guitar. You can feel the piano hammer hitting. It's just extremely detailed, but not in a way that feels like it's hitting you over the head in a way that's like, oh, this is analytical. Instead, it just feels natural. It feels like rounded edges as opposed to square edges. And I guess to elaborate on that feeling, it's just everything's really polished. It doesn't feel like anything's being forced on you. There's no sheen of analytic coldness or anything like that. It's just perfectly natural. And then on a similar note, getting into the treble response, things are really natural here. You get a nice, pristine treble response that's clear and airy without being sibilant, without any sheen. Again, like I said with the mid-range, there's no feeling of harshness or anything that's going to make you want to take off these headphones. There's a nice brilliance and a nice level of detail in the treble. I wouldn't call it relaxed by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just really smooth. It's really well presented, and I just keep saying natural over and over again, but that's what Hifiman's really going for here. They want to remove all the barriers to your sound and give you the most natural, in-the-room feeling sound you can get. And that brings me to the soundstage. The soundstage is so impressive on this headphone. Instruments are all over the place. They get their own space, but it's imaged really well too. Everything feels really well localized, and it feels like it's in the exact spot it belongs, to the point that it feels like you're in the room with the musicians. And I think that's really what this headphone does so well for me. With that low-end presence that allows for that room detail in the sub bass, to that mid-range that feels really natural, all the way up to that treble response and soundstage. The whole thing is so coherent and well put together that you just feel like you're in the room where the music is happening. And for that reason, we're giving Hifiman's HE1000 Unveiled Major Hi-Fi Gold. It really is that good of a headphone, and I really do recommend trying it out if you get a chance. It really presents some of Hifiman's highest end quality and build and design techniques in a slightly more affordable package. And that's where I'm really impressed with what Hifiman has done. They're taking the top of the line technology from the Susvara Unveiled and trickling it down into their not lower end. I mean, this is a 26 $699 headphone. It's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but they're trickling down their technology to the HE1000. There's going to be an Aria unveiled. And so I really like to see this from Hifiman. They're pushing their entire product line forward. And with that, I think that's going to wrap up this review. We really liked the HE1000 Unveiled. We really hope you get a chance to try it. And with that, if you liked what you saw, definitely like and subscribe down below. It'll help us make more videos just like this in the future, and it'll help you get them directly into your feed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.